welcome to Learning with Lulu. In this video we are going to quickly go over the happenings of chapter 37 in Jane Eyre. So in chapter 37, Jane gets to Ferndene House. Her timing is great because at that moment she sees Mr. Rochester at the door of the house. And she already knows that his sight is damaged, and so she sees him putting out his hand in a way that she can kind of assume that he's checking to see what the weather's doing. She just kind of holds back. She doesn't go say like, hey, it's me. She just kind of watches him, and she sees that his face, he does not look like a happy person. He's downtrodden, and he returns inside. So once he's returned inside, Jane waits a moment or two, and she goes and knocks on the door, and it's this elderly servant, Mary. Jane, being recognized, is, welcomed into the home. And Mr. Rochester is not alerted yet though, and Mary was about to take something up to Rochester, so Jane offers to do so instead. She goes to the room where Rochester is sitting, and it takes him a moment, but despite not being able to see her, he realizes that it's Jane in the room. But at first he doesn't believe it. He accuses her of being, a ghost or a spirit. So much in the same way where when they first met, he kind of views her as having bewitched him. Now it's kind of like, she's not real, she's not really here. He's able to discern that it's Jane simply by her voice, and so she's close enough to him at one moment where he catches her hand and he knows it's Jane's hand. And it's this really sweet, beautiful moment, and he pulls her into an embrace, and it's it's like his senses have been shocked. This sweet angelic woman that he loves is here with him, and he's holding her in his arms, and Jane promises him in that moment that she won't ever leave him. And so Jane and Edward Rochester are reunited. They're together and in circumstances that are peaceful for Jane's ethics and spirit. So we don't see the remainder of that day, but then we know that the next day they are walking together, and Jane is taking that walk to tell him about where she's been, what she's been up to, who she's been with. Rochester, he does have a moment of jealousy, and it's like he wants to make absolutely sure that Jane isn't in love with St. John and wouldn't rather be with him, because there is a part of Rochester's, he's insecure about his current state, which is his ego, because I think we can safely say that Jane has only ever cared about Rochester's spirit. She doesn't necessarily care about wealth or appearances. It's whether, the cord in her heart can connect and be held by the cord in his heart. And Jane just assures him that she's happy where she is. As we can recall from earlier in the chapter, she has promised to never leave him. Rochester asks her again to marry him, and now that they don't have any predicaments standing in the way of their marriage being right and lawful, not only legally but also before God, Jane accepts. So Jane and Rochester are gonna get married. Rochester, he then tells her about how desperate he had been a few nights before, and how he had called out to her and thought that he had heard her respond. As we know, Jane heard him call, and that's what brought her back to him. She heard his call and came back. She doesn't tell him that right away. I think, as I understand it, she wants to wait to tell him that for a moment when it's not going to be an even further shock to his senses, when he's maybe in a little bit more of a neutral emotional state. And that's essentially how chapter 37 ends. We end with Rochester asking her to marry him, and she says yes, and it's a peaceful and contented and fulfilling choice for Jane. And then we also learn that it wasn't just in her imagination, or, you know, not to discredit imagination, but yeah, it wasn't just in her imagination that she heard Mr. Rochester. I keep on calling him Mr. Rochester, and then I call her Jane. But anyway, it wasn't just in her imagination that Jane heard Edward call out to her, and something in the universe where, whether they're bonded spiritually or atomically, I don't know if you are familiar with the concept of where if two, I want to say photons, were entangled before, it doesn't matter how far apart they are, they will still react with that entanglement to circumstances affecting the other. And yeah, anyway, it's almost like Rochester and Jane are entangled because she did hear him, and I might totally be botching that analogy. But yeah, anyway, that's chapter 37. It's a great chapter. You know, these last couple of chapters, I think they are worth reading. They're very sweet and beautiful and just like satisfying to the spirit. So, chapter 37, hope you like it, like this video. Make sure to share with others, subscribe to the channel, and come back for more content. Thanks for watching. Bye.